wasn't fun. It was
Nobody
not
wants
fun.
the COVID Rona.
Had
All right.
the worst insomnia of my life.
Let's start the show.
Let's start the show, Eric. What do you want to talk about this week?
Same thing we talk about every week, Amir. If Cinderella's shoe fits so perfectly, why'd it fall off in the first fucking place?
Live to tape from Vancouver, it's Eric's Living Room, a show best listened to in the nude, featuring Amir Ali. And now, the man who still hasn't paid me for voicing these intros, here is your host, Eric Chapman.
Welcome to the living room. I'm Eric. He is Amir. Right?
Why did it fall? She was running.
She was running really fast, and she. I don't know if she tripped, maybe, but she was running like she would in her dress, and boom, it sort of fell off, and then he found it. So it's like, well, hold on. If I have my good Nikes on, or my good Adidas, they're not falling off because they fit right. So like, and he was looking for the perfect fit. Well, I mean, if it fits so perfect, why the hell did it fall off?
I mean, couldn't he have found somebody else that the shoe fit too? Like some random person walking down the street? What if it was a guy that the shoe fit?
Well, maybe.
And Cinderella's story would have been very different.
Well, she would have had to have like either egregiously big or small feet in order to find that very specific fit that he was looking for, right? You know what I mean? Because like everybody's got a size 8. So if she's size 8, then it would be impossible. It would have been the first chick he found.
What has you thinking about Cinderella?
Nothing.
We did talk about Cinderella last week.
Did we?
Yeah, we were talking about the
Shut your hole.
The penis vagina fit like Cinderella.
Oh yeah.
Perfect. Maybe that's what.
I forgot. Maybe I might have saw a meme on that question too. Because I like to play it off like the things I say are smart, but I really just research it, and then I just perfectly time what I know to make it seem like it's really smart and witty. In fact, that line right there that I used is not my own. I took that from somewhere else. Again, using it in a moment to make myself sound smart and witty. Ted Lasso, Nate.
I don't know if you realize this, but Cinderella was a fairy tale.
You know what? Fuck you and your logic, man. Okay? I'm trying to, get thoughts going, and then you bring that in.
That was one of my favorites as a kid, though.
Was it really?
Yeah.
You're right, though.
Even though it was kind of geared towards girls a little bit, I still watched that.
Are you one of those people that, like, gets really mad at movies because you can't suspend disbelief enough to, like, just get past this logical thing or some continuity or canon in something that, you know what I mean?
It has to be really absurd. Like, okay. I remember I was listening to a different podcast I did in the past where we were talking about a movie where some kid who's never killed anyone shoots somebody in the head. It's a Halloween movie. And then like 2 minutes later, they're just like off doing the next thing without any sort of like, it didn't impact them at all. So stuff like that does bother me, yeah. I'm a little stickler for the details.
Yeah, me too. What's with this other podcast? You cheating on me?
No, this is a podcast I no longer do.
Oh, okay. Because it sucks. I don't even know what it is.
It was that horror movie podcast. Oh, I know what it was.
Oh, that one. Okay, I didn't mean that, but now I do.
Long time.
All right, mental health check. I'm a little depressed. Got it this week.
Oh, no.
Just because, and it's not sad, it's depressed for sure. Like the feelings are there. I get this, there's physical stuff that happens, not tingles, but like sensations in my body that I get that I can tell that I'm a little depressed. And it's kind of in my chest, up my anxiety sits here.
Yeah, mine too.
And my depression kind of sits up here. And I feel it in like my collarbone. It's very odd, but it's kind of almost gets tingly in my collarbone and I know, oh my God. And then I feel the connection to my brain. And yeah, I'm feeling down. And a lot of it is to do with the genocide in Gaza. I'm going to keep it real. Like the mass barrage of footage that we're getting, no matter where you are or what platform you are, whatever you're chanting, I don't give a shit. It's this constant thing, and I feel like everybody's starting to feel it as well, and that's why I want to talk about it, because you can see everybody else ramping up too. You see groups of people, not one specific group, just many groups of different types of people starting to become louder now and come not out of the woodwork, but come and start speaking and in opposition or not, but they're starting to. And yeah, a lot of it's the protests and the sit-ins, and a lot of it's like so frustrating that we've seen this so many times with protests. Like, when are we going to, instead of stop reacting negatively to protests, be like, wait, they're protesting, maybe we should listen and bring that into our thought, our little circle of thinking?
Yeah, I've tried to just like, it might sound shitty. I've tried to ignore it as much as I can, and not pay too much attention to what's going on. Yeah, a lot of people. On the surface, it does seem like there's two sides to this. Obviously, there's two sides that are literally fighting here.
On the surface.
Yeah, and then I think a majority of what you're reading about now is that the people in Gaza and Palestine, they're kind of the victims of what's happening. I think that's like sort of the prevailing thought out there now.
Yes.
And in this time where I've tried to remain neutral. I remember someone that I work with saying something about, or posting something about, this idea of neutrality, which led me to this quote that I love from Dante's Inferno, which is something along the lines of, almost verbatim, those who maintain their neutrality in times of moral crisis, the deepest places in hell are reserved for those people. So to not raise your voice to a cause is like one of the biggest sins according to this text. And so that being said, I would love to lend my heart and my mind to the cause that's worth fighting for here. I just don't really know how to do that. Like, from my position
what do you
here,
mean? Like where let's talk about that. What's the confusion? Where do you get bump up against yourself?
What can
do?
I do?
Yeah,
like, am I going to post videos on Instagram stories? Like, who's that going to affect outside of like the 200 people that follow me?
Yeah.
If that, maybe it'll even turn some of them off, because I know there's people that I am connected with on social media that do not agree that Palestinians are the victim here. They believe the opposite. So yeah, how is that going to impact? Do I now go and join one of these protests and then get arrested and maybe risk my job?
Right, and that's the thing too. Like, you have to think about that. I'm glad I don't have to think about that, and that's the one thing right now of the position I'm in, that I don't have to worry about that. But I wonder about people like you that have a strong stance and belief, and or they're empathetic, and it's hard to keep your mouth shut about stuff. And maybe you don't want to protest, but like, if you even write something that's pro-Palestinian, you're automatically put in this Hamas group, which is fucking ridiculous and stupid. And so that's difficult so how do you do it? I revert back to keep your circle tight, keep those within your circle, the right people, and influence them as much as you can, because that's just because every circle is connected to another circle of people, right? And those circles just, as corny as that fucking sounded right there, I just want to punch myself in the face. It's going to affect each other, right? And so that's how I am feeling, because I want to protest too, but I don't know, man. I don't know.
What I've also been doing is just supporting the people that are being very vocal about it. So, like, as stupid as it sounds, like liking their posts about stuff.
Sharing,
maybe making some comments about stuff like that. I was liking some posts from someone that has been posting a lot of content, pro-Palestinian content, and they noticed that I kept liking their posts, and they said something along, I guess they knew my position that I couldn't maybe be too public about it, but then just sort of thanked me for my support anyway. So that was cool. Yeah, it goes back to what we were talking about. We had one episode of the podcast where we talked about it when it first started, and my stance is still the same. I don't want innocent people to be killed, and that's really it, especially innocent women and children. Like, there's no reason for those people to be dying. But then you go back into history and look at every conflict that's ever existed, and sadly, millions of innocent people are dying every year. So, like, what the fuck?
Well, I mean, yeah, if we're going to look at it statistically, even 12,000 babies that have been killed in Palestine, if you want to look at that neutral, or to what you're saying, like, if you want to play the devil's advocate, which is I'm not going to do, but if you are, like, statistically, that's not a lot of deaths. And same with, like, things like, the drug poisoning crisis. I see how people can be like, well, they take this logical analytical thought to it. It's like, think about it. Like, it's still a lot of people dying, but it's still not as many as alcohol or cancer or anything else. So really, why would we prioritize this? And same with the deaths there. If you really want to do that and play that devil's advocate, well, play the dirty game. Like, statistically, it's not a lot of people dying, but in a war, yeah, it fucking is.
And that's not necessarily the point that I was trying to make, that it's not that many people dying. What I'm trying to say is that it's just, what have we ever done to stop any amount of people, innocent people dying for any of these conflicts that have taken place?
Yeah.
And also then, we started this off with a mental health check. I can sort of connect this back to, a situation here locally now where I got really down the other day because there was an announcement about how much the fucking World Cup was going to cost to bring to Vancouver in 2026. The initial projections were something like over $200 million. Now that's bubbled to over $520 million.
As predicted.
To bring this fucking World Cup here that taxpayers are going to be footing the bill for, while shit like that is happening in the world. And again, here locally, as you alluded to with the drug crisis and stuff like that. Like, what?
Right. That's the problem. We can't even produce a comprehensible thought around it because it's just so baffling. But again, what do you do? What do you fucking do?
I get the, economic benefits and shit, but there's like, how are we putting those benefits ahead of all of these, thousands of issues that are impacting just regular people who are living here?
And everybody that lives here, not just the soccer fans. Like, this just affects soccer fans. Like, I could give a shit. I'm not going to complain because people need to find their joy somewhere. But I just believe I'm with you. Like, the money could be spent somewhere else and better.
That's a lot of fucking money.
It's a lot of money.
So many people that are dying because you're poor. But $520 million.
And that's the thing, too. They can't get that money for the poor people. They can only get that money for the soccer or football.
It reminds me of another story recently that, again, it's not so much that it makes me depressed. It makes me literally want to bash my head against something as hard as I can and knock myself out. You probably saw this story being talked about on social media, which was that butterfly tower that's being built in Vancouver. It's one of the tallest buildings in Vancouver. It's like a residential apartment.
Okay, yes. I didn't know it had a name.
And yeah, it's like on Nelson Street near the hospital. There was a story about whoever owns the penthouse suite using a crane to lift
get their
Porsche up into their living room.
Yeah.
Like, that's the city we live in. Like that. Like, this is the life that some people are living. And it just like makes me want to, again, like I said, like bash my head against something, and maybe I'll wake up in a world that shit isn't like this.
Yeah, it sucks here, but let's be honest, and I'm gonna keep it real here. It's our fault. This is happening because of us, because we're so fucking lazy and we can't figure out what to do. When we know what to do, like we just talked 20 minutes about how we don't know what to do. Yeah, we fucking do. You or I or anybody else knows exactly what to do. Start writing, start being loud, start talking. And we, believe it or not, we are the ones that control who's in power. And I think that because we're getting attacked with so much information and mistruths and lies, that we've forgotten that we actually can change this. And because of that, we're not doing the movements that, like, even just voting. Like, you can't tell me that 20 million people spoiling their ballot and not voting for any of these people wouldn't make democratic change. You know what I mean? So we're not doing what we need to do to make the change happen, because change happens with us, not them. Politicians are the worst of us.
This is a bit of a full circle moment for me here. I mentioned to you this book that I've been reading called Tribe that a coworker lent me. And that book talks about how sort of we've evolved from tribes, back in the day to today, to this, large social tribe that we're in. And how back in the day, say, among primitive people, if someone got more than the group's share, like say one member of a tribe of 10 people got too much meat and they were too greedy with it, they would be killed. The same thing with other tribes, where if someone deviated from the sort of collective power of the group and took too much of it, they would be killed. And so now you sort of fast forward to where we are now with how many people are taking too much meat, so to speak. I'm not saying we should kill these people.
No.
But
No, but
who is sort of making it equal? Nobody. All of these people are running off with all of this meat, and we're here at the bottom.
But we can't.
Who's keeping it in check?
Nobody. There isn't a one person that should be keeping it in check.
Exactly.
What I'm referring to. Yeah. It needs to be us keeping it in check.
Yeah, but we're not.
We're not. Yeah.
But that's the other problem. There's tools in place now that there weren't before to prevent us from keeping things in check, like police, like the government, like, some laws, even like, again, we're talking about protests, like we can't really do it that way because the people who are in power and have all of the meat can use that power to stop us from. So another fascinating thing that this book talks about is even in sort of modern societies when that has happened, like say during, the world wars, times of disaster have been sort of the equalizer. So like nations that have suffered from devastating earthquakes, or again, places that are being like bombarded by, artillery and war, they've been able to sort of find a level playing field. And is that what we need to sort of set our city straight, is like a massive disaster to finally bring people down to earth? Like,
I don't think so.
I hope not.
But I mean, yeah, I think about that often too, how often we see in film and movie and TV, like dystopian society portrayed as like when a natural disaster hits, everybody's like clanning up and killing each other and stealing. But I like to think that sort of what you're speaking, and I like to think that it would bring us together. And that, my house didn't collapse so you can come in after that earthquake and use my shower.
Exactly.
And I'm going to come and help fix your house because I have a house. You can sleep in my house while I fix your house and we'll swap, but that's the start we need. Like I talked to my friend about a society of the future relating to like Star Trek. And in Star Trek, there's no money. And he could not fucking comprehend in his mind how that would work. How do you do something and how do you get a house built without paying people? And I tried to explain well, you would come to me as your friend and be like, hey, I want to build a house. How do we get this done? And I'd be like, okay, well, I can do framing and a little bit of cement work. And other than that, I'm a good laborer and you can point me. So let's find someone else that can help us do that. And so from there, we get this house built with help from others, and he helps them to help them. You know what I mean? Like, we're talking about a societal shift here that is almost unfathomable. Well, it is to everybody all the time. So, I feel like that's where we need to start. And maybe not a disaster, but yeah, maybe it's a death. Maybe it's like this genocide that's happening in Gaza, and maybe something's going to, like, I feel and I fear and I hope it doesn't happen, like there's going to be a death during these protests. And if you look at, like the CSNY, 4 Dead in Ohio, like the protest song, like this happens. It's happened in the past, and we're not learning our lesson. And I fear that martyrdom is going to start playing a role here, and that's when things are going to get real scary. But back to the shift in the society, like, we need to start thinking more femininely, which is more of the group.
Something a friend had mentioned, sort of on the same note about this is disaster stuff, is actually, if you think back to the pandemic, at the start of that, we did kind of see a little bit of that kind of thing about people coming together. I don't know if you remember, like the 7 p.m. cheer.
Yeah, for the nurses.
And it was all really, I don't know, we found like the silver lining in that, and people were coming together until all the online rhetoric and bullshit about, the anti-vaxxers and shit, and that brought all of that to a screeching halt. And that's also what I worry about whenever we do see, even like with martyrs, not since like, I don't know, the time when like, say Martin Luther King got assassinated, I don't think did we see a lot of change come from, a death even, but
yeah, geez, I'm trying to what other, in North America, probably I don't want to ignore that. Let's not live in a bubble. Let's be honest. There's probably been a lot of deaths in other countries that we just don't know about, where it's been like very significant. And
maybe it has caused some change in their societies. And
stuff. And thinking back to what you're saying, like, there's a book by Seth Klein called The Good War. Seth Klein's an environmentalist, so lots of people probably don't like him, but he's a really smart guy, and he wrote a book about similar to what we're talking about, like, where we need to mobilize and think in a unified way like we did for war. Like in World War II, we mobilized. We had housewives making bombs. We had, people doing this, people doing that wouldn't normally do it. And we need to find the trigger to get people to think that way. And he references the environment. His book is about, we need to mobilize to save the environment, which is a part of this too, which is, again, ends up being a whole mental health check. Like, that's fucking depressing too. So the attitude shift, but what sparks that shift?
Speaking of the mental health aspect of it, I don't remember which war this book that I mentioned was referencing, either World War I or World War II. The UK government or the people in charge were really worried about how, this war would impact people's mental health and stuff like that. And they actually found that it caused a positive shift for mental health because of this idea of people coming together and building like community. And community actually is the thing that I think we are greatly lacking here.
Yeah, you know what?
Do you know your neighbors?
That's
like,
a great
in a real
point,
way?
man. That's a great fucking point. Oh, I like what you hit right there. Really, do you? A lot of people are just in neighborhoods because they're trendy. A lot of people hang out on Commercial Drive in Vancouver because it's fun. They're not there for the community.
And if there is an earthquake or something, or say, your house falls apart, are you going to be able to go across the street and will they welcome you even?
Right.
That's shitty, man.
Yeah, that's interesting because when I think of a disaster, I immediately think of going to my friends and not my immediate area because I just don't care about them.
Right.
But that's not okay. I should go
Yeah.
immediately next. You know what? Actually, both my neighbors on both sides, I do know them. And I would help them first.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Anybody else on my block, I don't care because they water their lawn even when a drought's happening, so they can go fuck themselves. But yeah, these people they're lovely. They're from China. Next door, they're new to Canada because they don't speak English well, and the next door neighbors here are like mysterious, and like I live in a fancy neighborhood because it's rent's cheap in an old house. But my neighbor, like, their land alone is probably worth $5 million. Like, they have a double lot in Point Grey. But she's, like, so sweet and quiet. She's like, hello, Eric. How are you today? Oh, and she's always gardening. And her husband's, like, really cool. And he, like, really tries to be cool. But you never see them leave. And they're not, and the only time you do, it's at, like, 3 a.m. And she's always coming in with a bunch of files. So I think she's a doctor. And I think he's just a stay-at-home husband that just runs their estate. That's basically amazing. But yeah. Anyways, I went off track.
That reminds me of you've probably heard of Ben Perrin. He's very sort of anti-police.
Big fan of Ben Perrin. Yeah.
He's an advocate for people who are struggling with substance abuse issues. And he told me a story about how in his neighborhood he's got like a WhatsApp group where he can chat with basically the entire neighborhood. And at one point, someone parked their tent in someone's yard. And, some people were scared, because people are scared of homeless people.
Yeah, for some reason.
And they just had a really sort of chill chat in this group about it. And I don't know if it was him or someone who lived closest to this person who dropped by in their tent, just went over and spoke to them. Just had a conversation with them, and they were just a normal person, and they offered them food and stuff like that. They threw a block party sometime later on, and they invited this person in and stuff like that. And
love it.
Again, that's just the power of community. Because if it was just someone individual isolated in their household, maybe they would call the cops instead.
Damn, man, you really hit on something. You got me thinking today, Amir. Fuck, I didn't think you were smart at all, but you got me thinking smartly.
I'm not. It's other people that have influenced me.
Okay, well, just do what I do and just pretend like it's always you that comes up with it.
I haven't talked to anyone ever.
Yeah, just change the wording a bit, claim. Yeah,
right here. But yeah, that was my mental health check. I feel a little bit stagnant right now, and when I see all this stuff with the haves and have-nots, I'm just like, I don't know if you ever feel that way. Like, do you feel like you don't have enough because of how much other people have?
Yes, I do, and I'm constantly
And does that make you want to start an OnlyFans?
Yes, my feet. I have really nice feet. I think I could do well on fucking OnlyFans, man. But no, I do. I think about that, and then I have to have the conversation with myself about that. Those things don't matter and shit. But then I look at my mom and how she has nothing, and she's 70. She can't walk. She fell a little while ago. She couldn't get up for 5 hours, and she's all alone where she is, and she has no money. And I think about that, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe I do need something. You know what I mean? So I'm constantly... I want money. I want a nice house, but I don't think I need it. But I do. But I don't. So that's the constant battle I have about it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too.
Yeah.
Well, anyway.
All right.
What do you want to talk about next week, Eric?
The same thing we talk about every week, Amir. We need to get rid of chess. It's just too hard and confusing, and I can't understand it.
Boy, am I glad that's over. Eric's Living Room was filmed live to tape in Eric's Living Room. Written, directed, and produced by Eric and Amir. For Eric's Living Room, I am Abby DeForest. Please send help. A Teeny Turner production.